Hey everyone, I am Karlie. Welcome to It's Hard Being Human podcast featured by Postpirations. Before we jump in, I want to let you guys know to follow our socials, TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram at Postpirations. Also, check out our Patreon page, It's Hard Being Human. There's a couple ways you can follow us and support us. Or as always, we appreciate a follow on those social media accounts.
Hi everyone, I'm Nadine. So I'm pretty much introducing the overall ground basis of what It's Hard Being Human pretty much is. And throughout this segment, you guys will get an opportunity to get to know all three of us independently, our backgrounds, what we stand for, pretty much what we don't stand for, all of our pretty much all of our different intricacies. But you'll get a chance to adapt to each person's personality and experience this journey called life with us and how we are pretty much navigating through it every day. We all have beautiful backgrounds. We all have beautiful intentions. And we hope that, through our vision and through our mistakes and through our obstacles, you all can be inspired and we can, change some lives, or you guys can help change our lives pretty much.
Yeah.
My name is Devyn, and I created Postpirations, and It's Hard Being Human, and I had the idea of bringing these beautiful ladies together to create this magical moment. A little bit behind the scenes info about all of us. Nadine is my best friend of 23 years. Karlie has been my cousin for a lifetime, and they really haven't known each other for long, and I'm so excited for you all to get to know them and their different personalities. And as you'll see, we have very different personalities, but our hearts and I think our intentions are the same. In 2020, I tried to start a business with Postpirations and sold some merch, and it was really difficult doing it on my own. And I had supporters and friends and family that really supported me. And now just having this team of women with me, I'm really excited for what this is going to be and for everyone to stay tuned and get to know the women closest to me. So my intention is just for all of us I'm so excited that we're all so vulnerable and it's aligned in this moment for us to be able to have a platform to speak our minds.
And I feel like, so I'm going to hop in because I remember when Devyn brought this up to me of her ideas, because I had previously had a podcast, so I love talking. And our conversations that we always have on the phone, they always somehow end up so deep and we just are reflecting on life and, and then she had told me about Nadine and how their conversations are pretty much the exact same. And I mean, if you ask me to talk, of course.
Well, you don't even need to ask me to talk. I'm talking regardless.
I'm going to have an opinion on anything, and even if not in the moment, I'll think about it, and then I'll let you know my thoughts on that. So I'm excited. Yeah, exactly. So I'm excited for this podcast just because I'm really excited to see the topics that we're going to jump into. And like Devyn and Nadine had said, we're all different, but we all kind of share the same intentions. So I'm excited to hear different perspectives and agree to disagree and share those perspectives.
Yes.
Awkward silence. I don't know.
Sometimes that will happen too. But so are we ready for some questions, or would you guys like to go a little bit more background?
Let's go in for the questions. Let's do it.
All right. So I have some questions that I would like to ask you ladies and for everyone to hear. What is important to you in a friendship?
So I'm going to go first because I'm a scholar. What's important to me in a friendship is trust and loyalty above all. I like to be able to, whomever I select to be in my circle, they have to be loyal. And I know when a person thinks about loyalty in their mind, it fluctuates for me, just pretty much just being your authentic self. I know I can count on you to tell me the truth, even if it hurts my feelings. And in this day and age, that's what lacks with so many girls, which is why I didn't have a lot of girls growing up as friends, because that type of honesty lacked, where they would tell you one thing in front of your face and then behind your back it would be something else. I'm I need somebody in my life that's going to be hey chick, you got a booger in your nose. I respect that, because that means that somebody that cares about me, that's going to ensure that I'm not going out. I know that that's a very sensitive subject for you, Karlie. I know that you've experienced it, making some examples out of people. But, but, but that's why, yeah, guys got me to shine. That's what I do.
I gotta block these shots, yes. Devyn.
But yeah, just this loyalty and trust above all. If I can't trust you, it's a deal breaker for me. I have to be able to trust you. It's not that you're not gonna make mistakes or whatever, but for me, overall, trust cannot be violated. So those are the two greatest things for me when it comes to friendship.
For me, I feel like effort, and then like, who do you show up? Like, are you gonna show up for me when I need you? And I guess that would kind of go with like trust and loyalty, but like I think effort, because it's a two-way street, and I think as we get older, it's harder. It's hard to put that effort in. There's so many relationships and so many, work, family, friends, if you have kids, your partners. And sometimes I think our friends kind of get put on the back burner.
Well, honestly,
and they can feel that.
What does effort mean to you? Because oftentimes I feel like in this generation, when we say effort, a person feels like they have to be in your face all the time. Define effort.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't want that. No. But because, don't get me wrong, we do have lives and it gets busy. But just like, if you can't, like occasional texts here and there. And like Devyn had said, I have a friend who she lived long distance, and sometimes we would go a couple months, no communication because life happened. But we would check in on each other here and there. And like, that's what I think is important, of like, we're going to be busy. Life is going to catch up with us. There might be a month, 2 months where like we don't see or talk to each other, but then knowing like, if we catch up, it falls right back into place. And then also like showing up for me, like if my friend is going through something, or if I'm going through something, I want to know that like, if I call, they'll be there, and like, again, I think that goes back to like, we have to understand that life happens. So like my friends, they might be in the middle of a crisis too, but just, like, hey, I see you're going through something, like, can I call you tomorrow? That's a better time and we can talk, or whatever. But just like, going back to like that effort, to me, that's what it is. But no, not like, I'm not that friend that's like going to expect you to talk every single day, or I mean, I have some friends that I do call every day, but
matched effort. Like if you're pouring into the relationship's pouring back into you, and you are assets to each other, versus like Nadine said, Absolutely. Kind of like the saying something to my face, but then behind my back. And I think, that kind of all goes hand in hand. And I think that kind of both of those answers kind of bring to light why this, like, you two mean so much to me, is because of the fact that I've had hard conversations with both of you. You both have hard conversations with me, and we've still figured out a way to like go through the hard part. And then we come back to like, we love and care for each other. And that's why we're having these hard conversations. And that's, I appreciate that. But the matched effort, I think, is really important. So I think a combination of the two of your answers is just literally why we're sitting here today with each other. Because originally this podcast was really, I wanted my mom and Karlie to do the podcast together. And I think they're just both the most spoken, blunt women in the world. So we will have Melanie's perspective on the show soon enough. 100%. All right, next question. How do you think we've lasted through distances, hardships, and being so different? How do you think we've all meshed and kept this?
I'm going to go first because I'm a scholar. No.
I'm the innovator. You can't be a duplicator, sis. You're going to have your own lines, okay?
Whoa. We've lasted, Devyn, because we're blood. No,
that's probably why.
Yeah, just because we've been forced to, like family reunions, dinners. Yes, our moms talk all the time and ask us if we're friends. No, I think because, like, again, going back to like, if changes, because there's been times where months, 6 months gone by and we didn't really talk.
A lot of times where I didn't want to talk to Devyn.
Yeah. Oh well, I wouldn't say that.
She's like, what? but we pick right back up. I'll be like, I'll kill for her. I might want to kill for her at the moment, but I'll kill for her.
Both of you.
Yeah.
Let me repeat the question. How do you think we've all lasted through distances, hardships, and being so different? So can we,
Well, in my defense, I just met Nadine, so we'll have to see how we last through distances
and
hardships.
We will.
But Devyn, for you, I think we
because you've had other friends that are long distances and things like that too. So.
Yeah. Well, okay, then I'll say, like, again, matching the energy and also having those hard conversations and approaching conflict. So instead of just, like, not, like, you show up for it. Because I can think of one friend, like, we've had to, like, call each other out on it if they were not acting right. Of, like, that's not what you do to a friend. You don't treat a friend that way, or you don't treat anybody that way. And then, it's, might cause a little argument. We might have a spit and not, like, talk for, a couple days or whatever. But then at the end of the day, we're like, you know what, you're right. I'm sorry. And I think being able to apologize and acknowledge your wrongs. Because no one ever wants to. I don't like to. But then I have to take a step back and be like, step out of your pride and remember that you're not perfect.
What?
Although I've been told otherwise.
And then that brings me to just a bonus question, I guess. How do you keep your peace if you've had friends like that maybe you've hurt and you're just like, I would apologize if they would just talk to me or tell me what happened or what I did wrong? How do you keep that peace knowing that you may not get that opportunity to apologize to a friend or redeem yourself for a mistake that you've made?
I just forgive myself and I move forward. Because at the end of the day, I'm only responsible for my actions. So if I reached out to you and I'm like, listen, at this season of my life, I'm matured now. I realize the errors of my ways. I'm going to reconcile. And you're just like, okay, well, no, I'm still feeling this type. You're more than welcome to feel that type of way because I invoke pain and hurt in your life in whatever capacity. But I have to now be like, okay, like, because I did this is the consequence of that. And now I have to live with my truth and my reality. But for me, the fact that I just was able to set my ego aside and actually reach out to that person and be like, I've done this to you. If you're willing to get back into the ring with me, we can move forward. If not, it's okay. I think that for me is what shows growth.
Yeah, I agree. And, like, acknowledging that, like, we may be the villain in some people's story.
I'm the problem.
As hard as it is, because, but yeah, I guess you just have to, like,
I think that's the gift of the curse with all of us.
Huh?
I think that's the gift and the curse with all of us. When we're willing to be able to have that hard conversation, and I hate this term, but the calling out of like, hey, you're, doing this, like, that's hard for people to hear. So you kind of have to, embrace that you might lose that friend for a little while. Both of you, there's been chapters where Karlie and I didn't really speak because I, may have said something she didn't like.
I can remember Devyn was like, I don't think that this part of your life I'm supposed to be in or something like that.
I believe she said that to you.
And Nadine yelled at me for saying
I did yell at you. I went to war for you. I remember that day.
She did.
Devyn was just like, Devyn was like, oh,
she did.
I'm upset. I'm like, dude, you're a jerk. Like, you don't get to talk to her that way because, like, you have meltdowns like every other day. You know what I mean? But her biggest thing is she wanted to go to the beach. It's like, Devyn, just because you want to go to the beach and Karlie's going through this does not mean what she's going through is not valid. Like, take a step back. And an expression that she always likes to tell me, which is true, you don't burn down the schoolhouse just because you graduated. Like, just because you passed this obstacle in your life does not mean when the next person is going through it, you're going to be like insensitive, like, okay, well, you know what, just get over him. Like, no, you have to allow them to go through the process how they see fit. It's not your journey, their journey.
And I'll agree, though, that, like, I can see how it's so hard that once you get through something to remember how it felt going through it. Because, like, I feel like now that I've kind of gone through that, but, like, these feelings are, like, coming back, I'm like, why is this happening? How do I deal? Like, I forgot how to deal with it when it's me going through it. Or, like, even if I have friends that are going through it, I'm like, why are you bothered by this? But then I'm like, oh, I was bothered for, like, a year, so I get it. But, but it's hard to remind yourself of the pain that you went through because you don't want to remember that. So
Yeah, and if you're still too fragile, but I just want to repeat that quote again because I think that's one of our favorite quotes right now is don't burn the schoolhouse down just because you graduated. And that if
mhm,
you just constantly repeat that to yourself, you will give so much more compassion to the world. And I
mhm.
think we need a little bit more of that.
And
I read something on LinkedIn, and I'm gonna butcher it, but it was something of like when you move up, like whether it's like in a job or something and you move up in ranks, they say it's like something like cognitive that you actually forget what it's like to not
Mm.
know what you know. And so it's harder to have empathy for someone who is going through something that you already went through. So it was like but I feel like that could be used like in life in general of like, remember like there was a time when you didn't know how to maybe navigate or regulate your emotions, so try to have some patience and empathy for someone now that you're dealing with who may not know how to do that, but it is hard. So
it's just a choice
Good answers.
also. It is also a choice because we could get in our heads and be like, okay, well, I'm the boss now, so I have to have like the boss mentality. But for me, with all of my employees, with everyone that is around me, it's like I practice servant leadership where like I'm as weak as my um I'm as weak as my weakest link, right? So for me to be like,
mm-hmm.
okay, well, I'm here and you're here, that doesn't make me feel superior because in order for us to all grow and thrive together, we all need to be at this level. I want no one in my circle to be mediocre. Matter of fact, if anyone in my circle is mediocre, I'm going to have to give you the boot because I don't hang with mediocrity. So I think oftentimes we just have to take a step back and just, you know, help guide that person through the journeys that we've gone through and remember like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, or I always go back to the Lion King. I love the Lion King where he teaches Simba that, you know, from the very beginning, like you don't like our bodies when we die, we become the grass. I know that everyone's gonna like love Lion King, but it's a circle of life. So from the very bottom, you respect that person, even if it's the person that throws out your trash in the office. Guess what? If they
Mm-hmm.
weren't there, your office would stink. So with that being said, you need to
Mm-hmm.
hold them in high regard and you need to like, you know, like respect them because they have a function, they have a role. So long
Yeah.
as we make a valid effort to remember that, because of course, as we grow, just like you said, we kind of forget those tears. We kind of tell ourselves we choose to forget them because like no one wants to go back to eating oodles and noodles, but know that they still exist and that people are still eating that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and like not to think less
Mm-hmm.
of them that they are eating that, but to kind of like be able to be human, i.e., our name, and to get down to their level and eat oodles and noodles with them and be like, listen, I've been there. We can get to where I'm at to caviar together.
And so I agree because I feel like one thing, like with emotions, but in general, is like you have to meet people where
Yes.
they're at. Because if you're going to meet them where you're at, they might not be there yet and they don't know how to match you there. And then you're going to cause confusion. So, like, in like, even like, you know, if you are talking to a friend and they're struggling with a relationship and you're like, just get over it or whatever. They can't. They're in the middle of it. You have to meet them where they're at and kind of be in their shoes and think like, okay, like if I was in that, I couldn't just walk away and leave. Like you are invested in that. So it's like you have to, you know, no one's going to change just like that, you know. So you have to meet them where they're at and then like you said, like kind of guide them and help them, but they can only change if they want to, you know. Also, we have to remember that too. We don't want to like baby someone if they just
No,
keep
they have
like,
to show effort.
you
The
know,
person has to like show effort. We'll provide them with
yeah.
the steps to success, but desire
Mm-hmm.
can't be taught. You have to want to get to those steps as well. Your own time.
Yeah, like if they just keep repeating the cycle, I can't help you. You know, you have to make that effort to want to
Yeah, be
end
better.
that cycle. And it's hard and it's scary and you know, I think it's more of like going into the unknown of like, okay, well if I don't continue this cycle that I'm familiar with, but I know it's damaging, I don't know what's going to happen, but I know what's going to happen here, you know? Like we're creatures of habit. So,
Well, that's what I love about this and bringing all of us together is because I think I was totally it was totally okay for my boundary to tell Karlie that in that moment. Maybe I didn't deliver it the right way, and I'm working on my delivery of messages, but that is my boundary. And this podcast is great, a reminder for me as well that it is hard being human, whatever side of the fence you're on, whether you're the one that's struggling or you're the one who's leaning and being the healer for your friend or family member or whatever. But I thought it was totally okay for me to put that boundary with Karlie, like, hey, I'm probably not the best person for this part of your journey. And that hurt my feelings to say that to her. And I'm sure that hurt you too. But we have to figure out that balance, because you might think, okay, a year is enough. This person needs to get over it. But maybe that person needs 2 years. And maybe we just need to kind of like, okay, well, I have to now put my energy elsewhere. I'll be kind, I'll be sweet, I'll show them compassion. But I have my own traumas I'm trying to deal with as well. So it goes back to, it's hard being human.
Yeah, and then I think, like you said, like that was your boundary, and then my boundary was saying, like, okay, you know, like I can't beg for you to be in my life if this is what your choice is. And I think that's the biggest thing is, like, we need to set boundaries with ourselves, because once we set boundaries with ourselves, it's going to overflow. And if you didn't have anything to give to me, I wouldn't want you there to support, because it wouldn't have been effective, you know? So we have to remember too, like, if we keep pouring and pouring into people, we have to make sure that we're pouring into ourselves, and pouring into ourselves is setting boundaries. If we know we are not going to be effective in that situation, then I'm going to remove myself.
Yes, 100%. Great answers. All right. So now that we've been, one day I'll go into a little more detail about just how vulnerable both of you have become over the years. And how grateful I am that both of you are so open now. But maybe you guys can answer this better. When was the moment you decided you weren't going to hold back anymore? With Nadine, you know, you've been a very private person. You kind of, you know, there's a piece of you that I always saw you as vulnerable because I'm your best friend. So I always got that side. But then, you know, with us being long distance, I've had to adjust to you being around your circle, or when you come into my circle, and respecting those boundaries. And then I'd be like, oh, well, I didn't know you're so vulnerable with me. And, you know, so now that you're willing to have and speak out in a podcast, when do you think that moment was of like, I'm so tired of holding in these feelings. I'm about to like just shine bright for the world to see.
As I'm like twirling, because I feared this was going to happen, because my chair is like all over, but I'm going to try to like keep it together for you guys. I don't feel like there was one particular moment. I think it's pretty much an evolution within my career, within my personal life, within everything, because I started cutting or not caring about and like everyone's expectations of me over time. Granted, I still care. I'm 33 and I still fear the idea of my mom not approving of my tattoo, but at the same time, like now I'm just like, if she's just like, hey, I don't like it, I'll be like, cool, that's your decision. That's your opinion. It means what it means to me. You're entitled to have your opinion. I'm entitled to have mine. A lot of people do not like this version of me, and I'm okay with that. Actually, I love it, because for me at this point in life, it's not bending to anybody's ideal of what Nadine is, could be, what they want to be, whatever. It's just who I am. I'm unapologetically me. So if you don't like the version of me that's in front of you right now, that's cool. You can hit unsubscribe. I'm okay with that, because I'm not for everyone, nor do I want to be for everyone. So I think for a lot of the girls in my past, that was their biggest thing. They're just like, who are you right now? Like, you're nasty or whatever. No, I'm who I am. You're just not happy that I'm no longer like a puppet to you. And it's like your manipulation or your views of me like no longer matter. You can tell me, well, I thought that you were this. Okay, well, it's a thought. Like, you know, people are like, oh, well, you're so disrespectful. Not really. It's the truth. If you feel disrespected by my truth, God bless. I don't care. So I'm living my life now on a different note, where it's like, I'm not going out to hurt people intentionally, because that's never been who I am. But now it's just like, if you come with anything or if you bring any type of stress and or any type of negativity that is not like normal every day, like, of course there's obstacles, of course there's stress. I'm not going to eliminate you out of my life, like, because you're going through a season. But I now know my boundaries. If what you bring to the table interferes with my core values, respectfully, I'm going to tell you that you didn't make the cut for this season of my life. Maybe next season, but not this season. So I've learned boundaries on all aspects with everyone. I will deactivate your code from my front door. I will block you on Instagram. I am unapologetically searching for peace. So if that's not what you come along with, then you're out. But it's okay. You can still subscribe.
What did you say last conversation? You said, I'm perfect. I'm imperfectly
Yeah.
perfect, right? And I really think that will be a theme for us for sure. Karlie, when did you realize that being vulnerable was more important to you?
Um,
Or your breakthrough
I'm,
moment?
I'm gonna get deep
Do
here
it, girl.
because it's a moment that like it just sticks in my head. So like obviously, I was in a very like toxic relationship, and I think towards the end, when I realized like, oh, I'm not happy, and I can remember it was the day that I realized it had to end, and I was in therapy, and I remember telling my therapist like, I don't even want to get out of bed in the morning. Like I struggle to get out of bed. I have to force myself. Like I just want to lay in bed. And she was like, Karlie, like that's like depression. And I was like, no. And I think that was like the moment that I was like, I'm not okay. And I don't ever want to feel like that again. And I remember like going into my parents' room and I was like bawling. And my dad was on the phone and he was like, I gotta call you back. And he was like, what's wrong? And I just started bawling. And it was just like that moment of like, I'm not okay. And it's okay to say that I'm not okay. But I'm going to now voice anytime that I'm not okay because I don't ever want to put myself in a situation where I'm buried so deep that I don't want to get out of bed in the morning. So like, I think that was like, and I still have my moments, like obviously. And like, I it's a balance because there are still times where I'm like, I don't want to say anything, like, but I think I won't ever let myself get that deep into something. But that was like a very like breakthrough moment where she was just like, you're literally telling me signs of depression. And I was like, no, like I did not want to admit that I was depressed or like going through depression because like to me, I'm like, no, like that's not me. That's not who I am. But like when she said it and I was just like, and that's when I was like, okay, like I have to do something. This can't be my life. Mm-hmm. And so that's when I was like, yeah, I'm gonna make some changes here. So
yeah, I feel like the same thing for me. I think relationships with your friends or just relationship, like your intimate relationships, you learn so much. So no matter, how many partners it's taken or how many times someone's been married, or every partner is here to teach you something like different about yourself. And I think for me too, is the same thing. And how Postpiration started was when I was once upon a time engaged. Nadine, do you remember?
I do not, but go
ahead. Putting up that boundary of like, that person just kind of like fell in my lap. And we've all had relationships like that where it was just like all of a sudden now this is just happening. And so then you get so deep where it's just like, okay, when do I end this? How do I end this? And that feeling in your gut that like something's not right. And once I found out he cheated, I was just, this is it. I am never, ever letting someone just fall into my lap again. I am not suffering in silence for anybody. And over the year, obviously it takes a long time to learn how to use your voice and respect people's boundaries and roar, but not like in a disrespectful way. And so I think that was the most important, when I realized how important vulnerability was, of just like sharing your feelings, because if you don't, I've known women who have died of alcoholism, and they had partners that weren't healthy partners for them, and you could die. Like, that's how serious. If you won't be vulnerable and you won't share your feelings and what you really want, you'll end up with a life you don't want to have. And I just like,
I'll say like, I want to say it was Kristen Bell, the actress, but I can't remember, but she has this quote that's like, honesty without tact is just cruelty. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, you can be honest, but you can also give that honesty in a way that someone will take it. And like, I had saw this video that was like, another way to explain it is like, if you were to serve someone a meal of like uncooked vegetables, uncooked meat,
all the time.
Yes. Nadine told me that, and I shared it with someone just the other day. Go ahead. It's the best. Mm-hmm.
I love it. But if you give them a plate of food of uncooked vegetables and meat, they're going to receive it, but are they going to receive any nourishment? No. But if you give them a plate of cooked food, a nice home-cooked meal, they're going to get nourishment. Same way of how you approach someone. Like, I don't think people realize that tone is so important. Like, I say this all the time to people, and they're like, I'm just being honest. You can be nice. You can deliver a message nicely, and someone is going to take it so much better than if you just come at them and like, well, I'm being honest. Okay, and you're also being a bitch. Like, you can be honest and deliver it in a way that someone's going to take that in and actually hear what you're saying. But I think if you just deliver a message rudely, no one is going to take that in. They're going to immediately, their guard is going to go up. They're going to become defensive. They're not going to hear what you're saying. And I think that's the most important thing. And I think that's like one thing that I'm also trying to learn, because I know sometimes I can get where I'm like in a mood and I just like will shoot my shots, and I have to remember like how would I want to hear things. And I try to think of it that way. But yeah, I saw that video too, and I was just like, that, I can't stand when people are like, well, I'm being honest with you. Okay, like there's ways to be honest and be nice.
Trust me, I'm learning. I have failed many times, and I'm trying my best to be a healer in this world and navigate through my trauma and not be a blunt person, because it's not nice. It's not nice.
Mm-hmm.
My last question, I'm wondering about our first impressions of each other. Obviously, Nadine and I met when we were 10 years old at a little slumber party, and she wanted me to dance. And I was so shy, and we were having a dance.
Do you remember what song it was?
I'm sure it was like an NSYNC song. I can't remember. We need to figure that out.
Or back that ass up.
Wait,
it was. I mean, granted, it was a clean version, but if I listen, throw it on, I'm gonna back it up.
Okay. We were in 5th grade. I'm not sure if there was definitely chaperones there. I'm not sure if they were playing that for us.
I remember it. Okay, my memory is keen.
Came on. Okay, for our safety patrol trip, back that ass up.
I think it was. When did that song come out?
I think so. Where you grew up.
I thought it was NSYNC.
No, it's been our like alma mater, like for sure. Like NSYNC is always our comfort place. We've gone through so many songs, like so many like groups and everything, and they all identify with us at that time, whichever time it is in our lives or whatever. But yes, we met on our safety patrol trip, because I was a safety patrol. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And she came over to me and said she told me to dance. And at that time, I was very developed for a 5th grader. And I didn't have a bra on because we were all going to bed, and they just sprung up this little dance party on us. And so I didn't have my little training bra on. And I don't have a bra on. And Nadine was like, okay. And she just went back and started dancing to back that ass up, I guess. But after that, I don't remember much after that. I just remember it was just moving
on the
forward.
train with one group of girls going, and I think on the way back, they were all crushed. They were just like, so you just left the squad. And for me, at a very young age, if I find something better, it's not personal, it's business. I'm going to go in that direction. I remember respectfully tell everybody you didn't make the cut, but on our way back, I decided to sit with Devyn. I changed my seating.
Yeah. And now we've been sitting with each other ever since. So, and Karlie
and Devyn, you're fam. Huh? I said you're fam.
Yeah, but we didn't meet until I feel like a little later in life. So I love and respect Karlie now. She's like my best friend, but at the same time, once upon a time, she was my baby cousin who just wanted me to paint her nails and do her hair. And
I feel like for so long, that is how you saw me. I feel like until like mid-college, because I feel like even
then you.
But I feel like even in like the beginning of Avalon days, it was still a little bit, and then like I think it grew. Yeah. But yeah, no, and I can remember one time you guys like came to our old house, and like they were like, "Oh, Devyn cleaned your room," and I was like so excited, and then I went in, and you like just shoved shit everywhere, like in random, and I was like, this girl did not clean my room. I just gotta go back and redo it the right way. But I remember like she did not clean my room. And then I remember there was a time I think I was like in middle school, and I don't know what was going on, but my mom, we drove to like Boca like almost every weekend. I can remember my mom being like, do you want to come to Boca, and we just were like every weekend. I felt like we were going down to Boca.
Yeah, that's true. And then, so do you guys have any first impressions of each other? Or when of course, I think we talked about this a little bit, how I always introduce Karlie and then versus how I introduce Nadine.
We're wrapping everything up as we're coming towards the end of our segment. I will say that my first impression of Karlie was literally as Devyn described. It was great. She rose to the occasion. I don't like, yes, you do. You show up.
Maybe.
For me, I don't like girls that are less too shy or whatever. I like a person who has a personality. For me, I'm always like, if you stand for nothing, you fall for everything. So if you don't have a personality, it's not for me. You're just blah. But you captivated my attention from the very beginning. I was like, okay, Devyn certified you. So let's see what it do.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the same thing. Like I just feel like I have to trust Devyn's taste.
Well, we
and
we're such Devyn's taste and friends.
My intuition.
Her intuition and friends. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. And so, I knew you were Devyn's not going to hang out with someone who doesn't have a personality. You know what I mean? I will say one thing, and I still think it, and I've been meaning to send it in our text, and I haven't, but I'm still shocked to this day that you have a dog, because I don't see you as a dog person. That's the one thing.
Person.
She wasn't.
I am I a dog person? Echo and I, we've been through a lot. Today's her birthday, by the way. She's 10. Okay. She's
yes,
happy birthday. I think she's the best dog for me in this season of my life because she doesn't demand or require very much of me. And I think that's why we get along beautifully. I could forget to feed Echo. And it's I get a dirty look, but it's not like a dog that's in your face, needy. So I think for my personality type, she's amazing because if I had a dog that was in my face, I would probably just put you in a closet. Respectfully.
That is
so I don't think you imagine if she had Blue. No. Oh, Devyn, have you ever met Blue?
Yeah, I met Blue. Blue is Karlie's dog. Your children are.
Yeah, Echo is me. Echo is Echo has my attitude. She has snobbish ways, and I love it. She's very particular which dog she'll walk down the sidewalk with, and I'm
a little offended by Devyn's comment.
You guys raise your dogs, okay?
My dog is bougie. She's out of control.
Blue is spoiled. She does whatever she wants. She will get up in your face, and she doesn't see anything wrong with that.
Do you see a difference?
Well, Echo won't get up.
Are you describing you?
Echo doesn't she doesn't care enough about you to get up in your face. She'll just walk away. She's her mother's child. We're not gonna engage. We're just gonna walk away and be we're not gonna engage. We have better things to do.
Blue is interested in every single person that walks into that door and will not leave you alone. Will bring you her toys.
Echo doesn't want to play with anybody.
This morning.
Ever.
This is my dog. This is Mickey.
You are your children. What is that?
Nadine bought me Mickey.
I did.
And this is my security. Yeah. So this is about as much responsibility.
That's okay. Baby steps. I could barely handle it. Some days I want to drop her off at the pound, but then I know they're going to drop her back off to me. So.
I know. I'm like, Blue, if you don't get yourself together right now.
Deb, I love this segment, and I know you're getting ready to wrap it up. I love us sharing everything.
Yes, and this is just a little sneak peek of what is to come in our future endeavors. And if you enjoyed this little teaser, check out our Instagram, social, but also come back and listen to our first episode, which will be airing on Valentine's Day, February 14th, and it'll be called It Takes a Tribe. Or It Takes a Village, I'm so sorry. But check it out, February 14th, Galentine's Day. Maybe you get with your girls and listen to our episode.
Good night, guys.
Bye.